The term aṣ-ṣaḥābah refers to the companions, disciples, scribes and family of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. This form is definite plural, the indefinite singular is masculine sahabi, feminine sahabia. Later scholars accepted the testimony of the words and deeds of Muhammad, the occasions on which the Quran was revealed and various important matters of Islamic history and practice. The testimony of the companions, as it was passed down through trusted chains of narrators, was the basis of the developing Islamic tradition. For the traditions of the life of Muhammad and his companions are drawn the Muslim way of life, the code of conduct it requires, and the jurisprudence by which Muslim communities should be regulated. The two largest Islamic denominations, the Sunni and Shia, take different approaches in weighing the value of the companions' testimony, have different hadith collections and, as a result, have different views about the Sahabah. Definitions. The most widespread definition of a companion is someone who met Muhammad, believed in him and died as a Muslim. The Sunni scholar al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah said, "The most correct of what I have come across is that a sahabi is one who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam whilst believing in him, and died as a Muslim." So, that includes the one who remained with him for a long or a short time, and those who narrated from him and those who did not, and those who saw him but did not sit with him and those who could not see him due to blindness. Quote, "Anyone who died after rejecting Islam and becoming an apostate is not considered as a companion. Those who saw him but held off believing in him until after his passing are not considered Sahabah but tabi." In Shia Muslims make no distinction between these as regards the trustworthiness. However, scholars like Javad Ahmad Ghamidi and Amin Hassan Islahi state that not every individual who met or had accidentally seen Muhammad can be considered as a companion. In the view, the Quran has outlined a high level of faith as one of the distinctive qualities of the Sahabah. Hence, they admit to this list only those individuals who had substantial contact with Muhammad, lived with him, and took part in his campaigns and efforts at proselytizing. This view has implications in Islamic law since narrations of Muhammad transmitted through the Sahabah require a greater status of authenticity. Lists of prominent companions usually run to 50 or 60 names, being the people most closely associated with Muhammad. However, there were clearly many others who had some contact with Muhammad, and the names and biographies were recorded in religious reference texts such as Ibn Sa'd al-Baghdadi's early Kitab at-Tabaqah al-Kabir. The book entitled Isdab fi Ma'rifat al-Ashab by Hafiz Yusuf bin Muhammad bin Qurtubi consists of 2,770 biographies of male and 381 biographies of female Sahabah. According to an observation in the book entitled Mawahi by Ladunia, an untold number of persons had already converted to Islam by the time Muhammad died. There were 10,000 by the time Mecca was conquered and 70,000 during the Battle of Tabuk in 630. Some Muslims assert that they were more than 200,000 in number. It is believed that 124,000 witnessed the farewell sermon Muhammad delivered after making his last pilgrimage to Mecca. Two important groups among the companions are called the Muhajirun, or exiles, those who had faith in Muhammad when he began to preach in Mecca, who fled with him when he was persecuted there, and the Ansar, people of Medina, who welcomed Muhammad and his companions and stood as the protectors. Chapter 9 of the Quran, verse 100 says, "The vanguard, the first of those who forsook and of those who gave them aid, and those who follow them in good deeds, well pleased is Allah with them, as are they with him." For them hath he prepared gardens under which rivers flow, to dwell therein forever. That is the supreme felicity. And continues, Allah turned with favor to the Prophet, the Muhajirs, and the Ansar, who followed him in a time of distress, after that the hearts of a part of them had nearly swerved. But he turned to them, for he is unto them most kind, most merciful. In the Quran, friendship in Islam, there are three types of Sahabah: as-sabiqun al-awwalun, the people who were Muslims at the time of Badr. They are further classified into two: Muhajirin, Ansar. They are ideals for the other Muslims because, well pleased is Allah with them. Those who believed, and adopted exile, and fought for the faith, with the property and the persons, in the cause of Allah, as well as those who gave asylum and aid. These are friends and protectors, one of another. And be not divided among yourselves, and remember with gratitude Allah's favor on you, for ye were enemies and he joined your hearts in love. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those with him are forceful against the disbelievers, merciful among themselves. You see them bowing and prostrating, seeking bounty from Allah and pleasure. The mark is on the faces from the trace of prostration. That is the description in the Torah, and the description in the Gospel is as a plant which produces its offshoots and strengthens them so they grow firm and stand upon the stalks, delighting the sowers, so that Allah may enrage by them the disbelievers. Allah has promised those who believe and do righteous deeds among them forgiveness and a great reward. Major Sahabah, the people who were Muslims before victory at Mecca and went into exile and fought for God's cause in most of the wars. They are also high in degree, especially those who were present at Hudaybiyah. They are also people that God is pleased with, released people. They were non-Muslim at the time of victory of Mecca. After that, they were forgiven by Muhammad. Then they became Muslims. Status: according to Sunni scholars, Muslims of the past should be considered companions if they had any contact with Muhammad, and they were not liars or opposed to him and his teachings. If they saw him, heard him, or were in his presence even briefly, they are companions. All companions are assumed to be just unless they are proven otherwise, that is, Sunni scholars do not believe that companions would lie or fabricate hadith unless they are proven liars, untrustworthy or opposed to Islam. Whom God is pleased with is usually mentioned by Sunnis after the names of the Sahabah. Some Quranic references are important to Sunni Muslim views of the reverence due to all companions, and he has restrained the hands of men from you, that it may be a sign for the believers. While Surah 8, Ayat 74-75 reads, "Those who believe, and adopt exile, and fight for the faith, in the cause of Allah, as well as those who give asylum and aid, these are in very truth the believers. For them is the forgiveness of sins and a provision most generous. And those who accept faith subsequently, and adopt exile, and fight for the faith in your company, they are of you." In another place the Quran distinguishes between the community in honor, not equal among you are those who spent and fought before the victory. Those are higher in rank than those who spent and fought afterwards. But to all has Allah promised a goodly. It sometimes admonishes them, as when Aisha, daughter of the first Sunni Caliph Abu Bakr and the wife of Muhammad, was accused of infidelity. Why did not the believers, men and women, when ye heard of the affair, put the best construction on it in their own minds and say, "This is an obvious lie." Behold, ye received it on your tongues, and said out of your mouths things of which ye had no knowledge, and ye thought it to be a light matter. Certain of the desert Arabs round about you are hypocrites, as well as among the Medina folk. They are obstinate in hypocrisy. Thou knowest them not, we know them. Twice shall we punish them, and in addition shall they be sent to a grievous penalty. In view of such admonitions, Shias have different views on each sahabi, depending on what he or she accomplished. They do not accept that the testimony of nearly all Sahabah is an authenticated part of the chain of narrators in a hadith, and that not all the Sahabah were righteous just because they saw a war with Muhammad. Shias further argue that the righteousness of sahabah can be assessed by the loyalty towards Muhammad's family after his death, and they accept hadith from the imams of the Ahl al-Bayt, believing them to be cleansed from sin through their interpretation of the Quran. Surah 33, verse 33, and the hadith of the cloak. Muhammad's wives. All of Muhammad's wives are called the mothers of the believers. The Prophet is closer to the believers than their own selves, and his wives are the mothers. Blood relations among each other have closer personal ties, in the decree of Allah, than believers and muhajirs. Nevertheless, do ye what is just to your closest friends, such as the writing in the decree. Another verse states, O consorts of the Prophet, ... God only wishes to remove all abomination from you, you members of the family, and to make you pure and spotless. Shias support their argument that one must discriminate between the virtues of the companions by verses relating to Muhammad's wives. O consorts of the Prophet, if any of you were guilty of evident unseemly conduct, the punishment would be double to her, and that is easy for Allah. But any of you that is devout in the service of Allah and His Messenger, and works righteousness, to her shall we grant her reward twice, and we have prepared for her a generous sustenance. The injunction to regard them as mothers overrules this in Sunni thought, particularly as regards Aisha, who was the daughter of Abu Bakr. Tradition, because the hadith were not properly written down until many years after the death of Muhammad, although there were many individual written copies. The isnads, or chains of transmission, always have several links. The first link is preferably a companion who had direct contact with Muhammad. The companion then related the tradition to a tabi'in, the companion of the companion. Tabi'in had no direct contact with Muhammad, but did have direct contact with the sahabah. The tradition then would have been passed from the tabi'in to the tabi al-tabi'an. The third link, the second and third links in the chain of transmission, were also of great interest to Muslim scholars, who treated of them in biographical dictionaries and evaluated them for bias and reliability. Sunni and Shia apply different metrics. Regard for the companions is evident from the hadith narrated Abdullah. The Prophet said, the people of my generation have the best, then those who follow them, and then those who follow the latter. Abdullah reported Allah's messenger as saying, the best of my ummah will be those of the generation nearest to mine, then those nearest to them, then those nearest to them. Sunni Muslim scholars classified companions into many categories, based on a number of criteria. The hadith quoted above shows the rank of sahabah, tabi'an, and tabi'an. Al-Suyuti recognized 11 levels of companionship. Shia do not have a ranking system dependent on when the sahabi embraced Islam, but according to what they did during their life. If a sahabah made Muhammad angry or questioned his decision several times, then he is viewed as unreliable. Shias consider that any hadith where Muhammad is claimed to have absolved all sahabah from sin is a false report by those who oppose the Ahl al-Bayt. The Shia believe that after the death of Muhammad, the majority of the sahabah turned aside from true Islam and deviated from Muhammad's family, instead electing the caliph by themselves at a place called Bani Saqifa. They did this by a majority vote and elected Abu Bakr as the first caliph. Although some of the sahabah repented later, only a few of the early Muslims held fast to Ali, whom Shia Muslims regard as the rightful successor to Muhammad. Shia scholars therefore deprecate hadith believed to have been transmitted through unjust companions, and place much more reliance on hadith believed to have been related by Muhammad's family. family members and companions who supported Ali. The Shia believe that Muhammad announced his succession during his lifetime at Dawat Zul Ashira, then many times during his prophethood, and finally, at Ghadir-e-Qum. Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith recognizes the companions of Muhammad. They are mentioned in the Kitab-i-Quran, the primary theological work of the Baha'i religion.